Welcome to a podcast celebrating Scottish culture and entertainment, which is here to sing the praises of books, films, comedy, music, theatre, exhibitions, telly, poetry, and all that jazz. I'm Nicola Meehan. I'm an arts writer and broadcaster, and I'll give you the lowdown on what's coming up, what's happening now, what came before, and what we love, which is to say that every week I am here to give you a kick up the arts. Now, I promise I'll stop going on about this soon, but I am still very excited about the first 3 live episodes of A Kick Up the Arts at Aberdeen's Granite Noir on February the 23rd, that's with actor Don Steele, at Glasgow's Glad Cafe on March the 1st, that's with writer Michael Peterson, and also with musicians Siobhan Wilson and Ravelo. And then on March the 27th, I'm joined by writer David Keenan, that's at Edinburgh's Portobello Bookshop. You can get tickets online for any or all of them, or you can email me at nicola@akickupthearts.org. For now, though, listen on for a blether with a woman I have loved for as long as I can remember, for her poems, her plays, her performance, her absolutely brilliant spirit, and she is just the best company too. Former Scottish makar Liz Lochhead's work includes groundbreaking theatre productions like Mary Queen of Scots got her head chopped off in Medea, although she is not so keen on looking back, it has to be said, on the sprawling, experimental Bairns and MacDiarmid-inspired Jock, Tamson's Bairns. Be warned. An anthology of her poetry today, over 50 years worth, a HANDSEL, was published last year. Liz studied at Glasgow School of Art, but music's also always been at the heart of so much of her work, from an early love of Joni Mitchell to her time with the Lost Poets, and titles like BAGPIPE music and In Praise of Old Vinyl. And that's not to mention collaborations with Michael Marra, Hector Bizerk, Andrew Wasylyk, and Andrew's indie harmonists, the Hazey Janes. Liz's album with the Hazey Janes, The Light Comes Back, also featured her legendary saxophonist Steve Kettley. You might have caught their fab show together, Something's Old, Something's New, among other adventures. Steve also played with Salsa Celtica and the Cold Blast Orchestra. He's worked with Nicky King and Saverna Stevenson, and he's also enlivened countless theatre shows through the decades, from Wildcat, from Communicado, and loads more. The three of us got together in Glasgow's Mitchell Library to chat about as much of that as we could over coffee so hot it was tantamount to a biohazard. This was ahead of Steve's Captain Beefheart-inspired gigs at Glasgow's Glad Cafe on February the 16th and at Newcastle Globe on the 20th, and also before Liz's appearance at Pitlochry's Winter Words Festival, which looks superb. She's there on the 22nd of February. And spoiler alert for any potential promoters listening, they are totally up for more shows together. I'm going to tell you the one, this is the only rule of the podcast.
Okay.
I tell everybody, and it was thanks to the wonderful James Robertson, and it's because...
I love him.
Oh, me too. So I think he and Andrew Wasylyk were maybe the second or the third one we recorded. They were wonderful, and that was together in Dundee. However,
they're both gorgeous gentlemen.
I know.
I just read Joseph Knight, and there's one of his earliest ones, and I sent him a thing saying, I've just finished it this morning, finally.
Yeah.
And I actually was moved to tears by the last page.
He does that though. He utterly blindsides you.
He said it's always great for a writer to know he's done that.
I bet you
he's
cry.
lovely. He is absolutely lovely. Yeah. I no longer own Joseph Knight because I lent it to Michael Marra.
Oh, that's a good reason.
I know.
It's
that's a good
reason.
Michael
and then
that
Michael
told me
got ill.
about James, actually. Michael said to me, I've got there's this great, read this book, Testament Gideon Mac, because it was his next door neighbour, wasn't it?
Yeah, right.
Okay. No, he is now.
Anyway,
right, we should go on.
James gave me a rule because, and the reason is, as you can see, I've got a fancy podcast thing here. Nice and colourful.
Is that a new kind of kit?
Yeah,
I used to have people with big things like that. That's where I used to talk to.
Literally, yeah.
Before digital, I guess.
It fits in my rucksack. And it is the best one, but also it is the most colourful, so it suited me. However, the kit's great. Yes. Thank you.
Suits you, sir.
The kit's good. The microphone stands are hellish. And so if you touch the table or you bang anything on the table, or unlike me, if you've got a waggly leg, it picks it all up. And hence the reason James Robertson gave us a rule for the podcast, which is nae shuggling. So if you're, so it's fine. It's fine. Just like, and it doesn't matter.
And get to the right distance away from the mic.
But you're all sounding wonderful.
I can pick that up. It's cooling down enough so that I can be able to hold it.
Totally scalding. I should have got as I don't know, that's like dangerously hot.
They should have things.
Yeah, they should have. I mean, I would say that about all of the world's ills. they should have things.
They should have things,
They
and
should
they should have
things
stairs to the
make
toilet.
things work. They should have stairs to the toilet, that's right.
They should have things to make things work. So listen, this is lovely. Liz, you and I have seen each other a few times over the years. This is the first time I've actually met you, Steve.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello there.
Thank you for bringing us together.
That's all right. Just all part of the service.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for it. And I'm going to start with you, I think, because I've heard you in various terms referred to this over the years. How do you become Liz Lochhead's official saxophonist? Because that's something I would love to see, like in a vacancies wanted down the job centre.
It's just bad luck, really. Well, Liz and I have known each other for a long time. We'd never really worked together very much.
Probably 35 or 40 years. I mean, really a long time.
Really?
Yeah, since the days of Jerry McGrew and Communicado Theatre Company.
And
we never were in the same thing, but we were in things at the same time.
Well, there was Jock, Tamson's Bairns.
That was 1990.
The Tramway, 1990, which I was part of the band for that. And
huge
and
band.
Liz wrote the words, and there's a story about that, actually, because that later on, perhaps, because that band's going to come back together again after 20 years.
Oh, really?
Yes, the Cold... Shall I do that now anyway?
Yeah, Cold Blast Orchestra.
The Cold Blast Orchestra. Which is my favourite band of all time, as a performer and
it was brilliant.
And a writer. Amazing band to write for all the different
brilliant.
instruments. And so we played a smaller version of the band with a couple of extra people, played for Mike Travis, the original drummer's memorial service last February last year, 24. And we thought perhaps we could do this again, because we'd always thought, could we ever get this back together again? And so I started moving on that, and so we've got 4 original members, 2 members that joined us about halfway through and people left, a couple of extra people, and then we've started rehearsing. We've got 3 young Scottish trad folk musicians, one of whom is Gilly O'Flaherty, who's the son of Anne Wood, the fiddler, and 2 other guys, Tom Campbell and Sam Mabbott. They've all been up for like Young Scottish Trade Musician of the Year and all that sort of thing. So they've joined. We're now 11 people, which is a bit mad, trying to get gigs, and we're calling it Cold Blast Orchestra Generations, and we failed miserably to get a Celtic Connections gig, which I thought we would get. I could get very bitter and twisted about that, but let's not do that.
Yeah, don't get bitter and twisted,
but we do now have
It's got a streak of that. I'm only teasing.
We do have a gig now at the Travis in Edinburgh on September the 13th.
Oh, that is brilliant.
And hopefully some other things, so it's quite exciting.
Things will grow out of that. Because Cold Blast Orchestra happened in 1990. I mean, you went abroad with it, God knows all what. Yeah. It was fantastic. I mean, it was, what was the actual show again?
Jock Tamson's Bairns.
Jock Tamson's Bairns, yes. It was Jerry McGrew's big thing. And it was lovely for all the band, and it was a nightmare for me.
It was
just a nightmare.
It was a nightmare to get together. Once it got going, it was fine, but the actual, we had a 10-week rehearsal period, which is very
I've never
unusual
had
for a
before.
theatre thing.
And I've always thought I would love that, but it was awful because I didn't know what I was doing. I would work all night, I would work all night though, and bring in stuff, and they would read it once, and Jerry McGrew, I mean, I love Jerry, we're the best of friends, and he laughs at this himself, but he would say, no, not that. And I'd say, well, what then? Give us a clue. And so I started to throw up and then go to my work. And then it started to be on a Monday, I would go in and I would think, I should have resigned last week. And it's getting too close now. And then, the band were rehearsing in a totally different place.
Oh, really?
And they would come in with wonderful stuff,
Karen
Wimhurst and Anne Wood, people that I love and all that would come in with these great things, and I would say to Jerry, maybe we should make it into an oratorio and I could write some, and he said, no, it's just, and it just went on, and I would have loved to have seen it, but by the time it went on, I was a nervous wreck. It's the only, it was quite good because it told me what I didn't want to do anymore, and immediately after that, I can distinctly remember, I wrote a two-hander thing called Kelka Flower that, that was just me and Stuart Hepburn, who I'd worked with on Mary Queen of Scots beforehand.
He was also in Jock Tamson's Bairns.
Yes, it was full of people that I love.
So,
I think I better turn off my phone. Maybe an idea. Right, could we grab that bag for me because I can't get up?
Do you know, it's so lovely actually that we're chatting about the Cold Blast Orchestra. Oh, maybe that's it. I like your ringtone. I've got Nicki Minaj as my ringtone.
I don't even know who Nicki Minaj is.
I turned
You're missing
mine
out,
off,
Liz.
Nicola. I turned mine off.
Thank you, Steve.
Do I get a...
Thank you.
Right.
Do I get a
Sorry
bag?
about
Absolutely,
this.
you get another cut of this huge commission. The Cold Blast Orchestra came into my sort of awareness slightly after that, but not by much, and it was because Anne Wood.
She's wonderful.
Anne Wood, utterly wonderful. So is it sorted? You can take any calls you need to, but remember, no sugar in your phone on the table, Liz Lochhead.
Right, I shan't. Sorry.
I shan't.
So Anne Wood
Excellent.
did what?
I shan't.
Yeah, she toured with Deacon Blue. This would
She
be
did,
late
yes.
91
Oh,
and
yeah.
into 92, the Fellow
Yeah.
Hoodlums tour. And two things happened on that tour that were a complete revelation to me. One was Anne Wood.
Yeah.
And I saw her on the very first Scottish day of this tour. So it was a theatre tour. So Deacon Blue had been, obviously, were still massive, but they'd done the arenas.
Yeah.
They'd knocked Madonna off the top of the charts, and they'd come back with Fellow Hoodlums, and it was more of a theatre tour. So suddenly you could see them up close. So the first gig, it would have been the 28th or the 29th of November. We don't need those details, but I can't help it. So it'd be 1991. I think it was those 2 dates, and Anne Wood's there as their fiddle player.
Yeah.
And she was utterly brilliant. Now, I'm not a good musician, but I did play the violin. So I was kind of like, there you go, a hero for me,
great.
up on stage with Deacon Blue. By the Hogmanay, which was the bookend of this tour, they were at Glasgow Royal Concert Hall.
All right.
And Anne Wood had changed from this wonderful woman in her, I felt like, kind of like Anne Wood clothes. And by the time it came to Hogmanay, this may be a misremembrance. I feel like she was in leather. I feel like Deacon Blue had taken her out in the rock and roll world. And we were like, that's what happens when you go on the road. And of course, Deacon Blue, the most gorgeous, mild-mannered band in the world. But to us, the absolute epitome of rock.
Yeah.
The second thing about that tour was that they took Michael Marra on tour as support. He opened every single gig for them.
I don't remember. It's funny because I saw that at
in America?
the Playhouse in Edinburgh.
In Scotland.
In Scotland.
And she
by the
got me
way.
backstage and everything.
Yeah.
And I don't remember Michael at that. So
He was a support, yeah.
See,
He
you have got
opened
a
for
great
them.
memory, but it's not utterly infallible. Yeah, and
and
when
when
I
I-
first saw Anne Wood, I could beat you. It was 1982. I'd come back from
Wow.
America.
It was a
I wasn't going
Tuesday,
to live in... I'd come back from America and I was not going to, stay in America anymore. I'd done one show with Jerry Mulgrew. He played a dog in a thing I wrote with Wildcat called Same Difference.
Yes.
And I was in Skye doing a school, and I was walking by the butchers that afternoon, kind of going to my B&B, going home tomorrow. And I could see that they were going to do the wonderful show that they did. It was Carmen in the Spanish Civil War,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
This was
right, yeah.
1982. And they arrived outside the hall, and I helped them put the thing together, and they were on in the hall that night in this, in Portree. And there we were, just together having, I'd known Jerry Mulgrew for he played this mad dog in this thing, played a saxophone playing dog.
Of course.
Yeah, there you go, as you do. And onto the stage came Anne Wood and another beautiful fiddler. There was two fiddlers, and it was just a shiver up my back.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, we're doing Mary Queen of Scots,
And she
which
opened
turned
that.
out to be a great. And so she's part of the team of that. And there was Anne Wood's, and we would work on things. I would write. That was the opposite of
Yes.
Jock Tamson's Bairns. I would work all night,
Best
and
people.
we would fly with it the next day.
Yeah.
And Anne would write something overnight from what I'd done the bit before and whatever. And I remember one day we were trying to make a procession in a crowd out of 6 people that we had. And Anne Wood said to Jerry, well, I thought what we would do is that I would play Standing on Your Shoulder. And you could walk me around and I could play. And Jerry said, do you think you could do that, Anne? And she said, yes, I think so. And jumped up and they walked around, and that happened in the show.
Yeah.
This beautiful woman playing a fiddle.
And the
and a terrific play that I'd written in bits. But I did, that was the joy of working with, but then the other thing got too big and went wrong. You don't know what you're doing. You have nice times and good times and bad times.
That's probably the first time I actually worked with Liz, Jock Tamson's Bairns, but the reason we got together this most recent
well,
time
we decided to do
is
this.
Actually because of Michael Marra again.
It's almost 15 years ago.
Yeah, because Michael died, and I was in the...
died 13 years ago.
The band at... I was in the band for his big memorial thing at the
concert hall.
Concert hall.
It was brilliant.
And Liz came on, and as I said, we knew each other anyway, and she did a
little
sort of
bit
small
of a
version of this poem she wrote for Michael. Then I did a big saxophone solo with the band afterwards, and then she phoned up and said, should we record it? And I said, well, perhaps we should do it live first. And she said, come and do my show.
Today, one of the hundreds of friends at your funeral was just desperate to tell me the story of when first he met you. Michael just came on, sat down at the piano, started singing an och. Anyway, after he was finished, and we were standing together in the wings, well, I was that over the moon I was, just getting on and on I was about how knocked out I was, and here, on stage, the orchestra had started. And he was quite entitled to tell me to shut it. Anybody else would just have said, shut up. It was called for. But no, he just puts his finger to his lips, says, shh. So soft you could hardly hear him, and one word whispered, listen. That was Michael.
I remember it differently. I remember you saying, do you think we could do something together? It's funny, isn't it?
No,
but anyway, yes, because I'd done one show in about 14 years ago for lovely Tommy Shepherd of The Stand. He'd said to me...
Hello, Tommy, we love you.
Yeah, I do love him. Wonderful man. About 18 months after my husband had died, it was New Year, and he said, you should do a wee show at the festival. And I said, nah, I'm never doing any more shows at the festival. And he said, well, we've got what's the beautiful Georgian, the assembly rooms and a lunchtime. You should do a wee show. And I said, nah, I'm never again. I did a show 2 years ago with Carol Lola, and we lost money. We were full up, but we lost money. And so never again. And he said, I think you should. So I did it 1 year myself, just doing a reading. And it went down incredibly well. So then Michael died that autumn. And then for the following year, I thought, if I do that again, I want to do it with someone. And it's just it's a different thing, because it's a sort of mixture. But it's amazing how different in tone you can get with a wee show. You can go from really sad things like, well, it's not sad, but it's... I hope moving the thing for Michael, which I wrote. I started writing anyway the day after his funeral. And so there was a bit of saxophone going in that. Then we would sort of write filth at other times,
Lots of smut.
Right, I was thinking about that. Like, I got to do the Dirty Diva for what's his name the other night for Loose Ends, because they said to me, do something that's about a minute, and I said, I can give you something romantic, or I can give you a bit of filth. What do you want? But so I read to the producer the two things, and she said, leave it with me. And I said, yeah, I'll bring the two things, whatever. And so going live, they sort of said, just give us a bit of the filth then, and so I'm going to give you it again. You like this. But I remember us starting to write it in the car with you when we were going Cockbridge to Tom and Toole over that. Right? We'd been at Balmoral, and then we went up north through that road, in the winter, the winter's up. But anyway, the Dirty Diva had been in our show a couple of times. This character that I'd written over the years, it's a complete alter ego. I must say, I'm nothing like this. As myself, I'm just prim and very whatever. But anyway, we thought we needed something new, so I said, new finale, I'll do, what about the Dirty Diva inventing a dance craze? So, I say that, but it took about 3 or 4 weeks to fart about, getting rhyming and things like that. But anyway, might as well have a go. See if I can make you laugh. See if I can make you giggle.
Oh, I know. I'm hard as nails as well.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm a hard taskmaster, Liz Lochhead.
Well, this character, who's not me and nothing like me, she's actually American in one of her incarnations. So she emailed me this. She's older than me as well. She's She's in the second half of her 80s now, you know, as Dirty Diva. Anyway, the Dirty Diva, knocking on a wee bit these days, nevertheless attempts to invent a new dance craze. Can't get my socks on, can't get my rocks off, but that loss of libido that everybody talks of is yet to kick in. Let's do the salsa geriatrica. It's no sin. Jeepers creepers, the Grim Reaper, for crying out loud. He's cutting a cruel swathe through the old crowd. He's on the rampage. So what we're going to do with our late middle age? Accept the salsa geriatrica. It's no sin. There are those, God knows, think at our age it's not right. Never ever play the Lay Lady Lay, their Marvin Gaye, nor their Barry White. I say, come on, give it a spin. Let's try the salsa geriatrica. It's no sin. Try it on with some septuagenarians and they go, geese peace. They're like, I'm glad I'm past it. It's a merciful release. Me, I'm still like, get ready, get set, begin the salsa geriatrica. It's no sin. Had we but world enough and time, procrastination is no crime. But unless the whole idea is totally horrendous or worse, risible, delay is inadvisable at our age. Are we on the same page? What else are we going to do with our late middle age?
That's interesting that you actually phrased some of that as if I was playing with you.
That is very interesting. You can hear the musicality in it, right?
And it was written to be turned into that.
But you can hear, you know, that's what's really, really interesting. And late to middle age, I'm absolutely here for that as well.
Yeah,
I love the Dirty Diva. Can you email her back and tell her I love her?
Tell you love the Dirty Diva.
Wherever she may be in this world.
As Dave Anderson said to me last week, you know, in sentiment similar. You know, you get to the age you don't want to buy any green bananas.
Exactly.
Is that what you said? You can listen to the episode of I Kick Up the Arts with Dave Anderson, incidentally, which we recorded at Ordinmore.
Oh, that'll be wonderful.
And he's
I love
fantastic. He told me a brilliant story that I didn't know about how he was in Local Hero. He was wearing a Local Hero jumper. Right. And he said, I pretty much ended up on the cutting room floor in Local Hero. He said mainly that was because, and he told me about this scene that was filmed but never made it. And part of it, he leaves the coastline and he rows away. But he hadn't really been giving any rowing lessons prior to getting in the boat, and he nearly got lost at sea.
Maybe that's why they cut it out.
Even in the 80s, health and safety had its limits.
He kept being in Local Hero. You keep seeing him as part of the local team.
Yeah.
You know, with the town bike, with the pram, you know, and all that, and the jokes about it's a wonderful film.
That's one of the most wonderful things.
It's a beautiful
and I think
film.
with Bill Forsyth, it's those wonderful moments that are just out of shot or aren't the main scene, you know, the penguin and Gregory's girl. Just go with it, or just go with it. Who are the parents of this? Who owns this child, right? That's just getting wheeled
jokes about it. I mean, you must do Bill Forsyth for the...
I would love to. I did speak to him and Claire Grogan and Alex Norton on Radio Scotland around about the 40th anniversary, wildly, of Gregory's Girl, but I would love him to come on because, you know, I said to him at that point, you know, are you able to, within the distance of kind of time, appreciate how much these films are loved? And he said when we were talking about Gregory's Girl, he said, it's never really hit me until now because I couldn't read all the messages that people were sending in about it. And likewise, we did a similar thing when it came to Local Hero. And it's almost, you kind of need, you know, even the way you're talking about your memories now of Mary Queen of Scots or something like that coming to the stage, when it's in real time, it's hard to see the bigger picture, of your work.
You're trying to get by.
Yeah.
You know, with Mary Queen of Scots, got her head chopped off. It wasn't even called that. It was the Mary Queen of Scots show. And I remember saying to Jerry, we'd been working on it for years, writing bits of scenes and trying things. For about 2 years, we would get wee bits of workshop in time. And then it got to be, I remember it was the election and Thatcher got back in. And I'd been up all night and I was devastated and I was going to go and say to Jerry, we haven't got something to do. Yeah. And this was May and it was going on in the festival. And Jerry, with his genius of Jerry, said, yeah, you have. He said, go home and tell it as a story to yourself. Think of King Lear as a story, he said. Once upon a time, there was a king that had 3 daughters. Tell yourself this story like that. And that led to the corby, which became the structure, which became, you know, it was one of those 100% gifts from other people. And then why it's called Mary Queen of Scots Got Her Head Chopped Off, Jerry came into rehearsals one day, really about 2 weeks before the show went up, and he said, I was at the printers this morning, and they said, what's the title? We were making the poster, you know, and they hadn't made the, you know, and they said, I said, it's called Mary Queen of Scots Got Her Head Chopped Off. Are you angry? And I said, no, that's perfect. You know, I mean, it's, you know, it was, you know, you have good times and you have bad times. Things get out of control and they get back in. I mean, and I haven't properly worked with Jerry again, and we still, well, I think we still love each other. I still love him anyway.
It was a wonderful show, and that Mary Queen of Scots.
Oh, it was wonderful. Yeah. And that's a bit like, you know, I had no idea. Like, I actually was, just before it, so stuck that I thought it was going to be awful, but thanks to Jerry, Anne Wood, Myra McFadden, the late great Myra McFadden, the Crow, you know, the Corby.
It was just after the 2 that I did with him, because I did the Hunchback, the first thing I'd ever written the music for, and then
was that the first? Was it?
The first.
Before it.
I've been with Wildcat before that, but I'd never actually. But that's where I met Jerry in a Wildcat show, and then the Desire, which didn't do very well, but after that was the next one with John Tamson as well. But then there was Mary Queen of Scots, and I was doing this sort of mad late night show with Jerry after that.
Yeah, I remember that.
The Big Bang Orchestra.
Yeah, it was a great.
Some of which became
thing.
the Coal Blast Orchestra later on,
you know, so, you know, things...
Interconnected.
But things, you know, things that really work are probably right on the edge, you know.
But it's like you saying, even with Jock Tamson's Bairns, I found it really interesting that you almost described a process there, for better or worse. You would get to the next week and you would be like, oh, I should have given this up last week. And then you said... It got so close to it, you were like, too late to give it up now. Yeah. And I wondered if almost that lack of choice is part of just getting through it. At some point, you just have to, it's got to get finished.
It was like that with Jock Tamson's Bairns, but it really wasn't fun.
But it is lovely that, as you say, you know, for the Coal Blast Orchestra, which is like an absolutely delighted to hear ongoing, you know, story, which is wonderful.
With some of the principal people no longer with us now.
Well, two of us have died, you know, in the last year and a half. And,
I mean,
and two
Rod
of them
Patterson, one of the best singers in Scotland.
He was sort of an extra, but I mean, Norman Chalmers, the concertina player,
was
died last
later
year,
on.
And Mike Travis just a few months beforehand. And 2 of the members, Ron Shaw and Jack Evans, decided they were too busy or just, you know.
As they say, Jeepers Creepers, the Grim Reaper, for crying out loud, he's cutting a cruel swathe through the old crowd. He's on the rampage. And I'm not saying that what we should do is the Council of Geriatrica. It's just get up in the morning and get your elastic stockings on. You know, it takes me 2 hours to get out the door these days because I've got to get on these stockings that are going to hold my swelling veins in and get into,
such a shame this is radio, isn't it?
I know, it's not such
Liz has got her legs out and everything.
No, I mean, well, thank goodness they aren't doing frank rehearsal. But you know, no, when it's radio, you've still got to get half decent.
And you look, may I say, you look an absolute vision. Yeah. You both do, of course. This idea, though, that you've both almost covered in everything we've said so far is the fact that you're working with other people constantly, right? There's always this complete sort of spirit of collaboration and in your work as well. You know, whether that's you with Salsa Celtica or the Coal Blast, or whether that's working with Nicky King or, of course, Liz here.
Yeah. I mean, Steve's in about 5 bands.
I think it's more than that, actually. But some of them
4 of which I like, which is quite good. Some of them are a bit too wild for me.
Yeah, some of them only very occasionally. I mean, I have an occasional club that I've just booked one for April, but Click Clack it's called. And it used to be every month, but now since COVID, I'm only doing it 2 or 3 times a year. But that's when some of my groups only play at that. You know? It's just too much work trying to get work for original music for a start, but my main 2 things at the moment are a band called Orange Claw Hammer, which plays the music of Captain Beefheart, which Liz always describes as niche. And
nicely niche, Nicola. Nicely niche, Nicola.
I'm getting that T-shirt.
Nicely niche, Nicola.
I am very niche, believe me.
Yeah.
Special interest.
Yeah, so we sort of do our own take on the music. Hector Bizerk, sort of an avant-rock icon. And plug, we're playing at the Glad Cafe in Glasgow on the Sunday coming, which is the 16th.
Nice.
And then we're playing in Newcastle on the 20th after that. First time in Newcastle. So a couple of albums out and that. And I'm also in a band, which isn't my band this time, which plays the music of Frank Zappa, who's intrinsically connected with Captain Beefheart. And that is more of a tribute band than my Beefheart thing, so we're playing quite a lot.
That's less niche and more of the edges of my
yes.
comfort
Are we getting
zone.
to your periphery? Right, okay.
So we've got a few coming up as well.
Nicely inserted, all these little things.
No,
What I was
cool.
hoping to insert, Nicola, was, I mean,
You just cut me off there.
I'm trying to get something good for us. You're good at getting good things for us going.
Okay.
I would like us to be able to, I thought that we would maybe stop. I mean, I'm 77. I feel it sometimes, my knee, I'm waiting on a new knee, and it gets really annoying, because it sometimes goes. Anyway, it would be nice, I would like to do, this is my dream, I would like to do about 3 or 4 festival gigs this year, but I cannot be arsed doing any of the, the admin. He's good at the admin stuff and all that, but we really need a wee producer. Right. Also, I want, Dave Anderson and I we're going to, we're thinking of doing the audience and getting some young people like Annie Grace and Brian O'Sullivan, people like that. Mm-hmm. Some of the younger people together to, I would love to see
younger
some
people
of the
like their 60s, isn't that something?
Yeah. No,
young
not even younger than
working
that.
with the younger
Children
generation.
of people, who are only 45 or 50, only that kind of young people. But, it's just, it's like, the best thing about being in Scotland is, if you're my age, practically everybody that's got any time for you at all. There's still people that don't know you, can't stand you, and that's fair enough. You're allowed to just go, hard again, whatever. But anyway, we would need a wee producer to kind of do this kind of thing together. If we got together a wee tour, which would be good, because it's hard to do a single show because you rehearse for 3 days and then the next time you do it you forget what it was and you start again but it's nice when you get a wee run of things, just 2 or 3 together, and we had a kind of we could do a few festival shows.
Totally, and I think you're right. Like when I'm thinking about the Unbound night you did at Edinburgh International Book Festival, so that was around about The Light Comes Back, so that's with the Hazey Janes and yourself and
that was a way back, that was before lockdown,
and that was terrific. And what I loved was it was a brilliant night, wasn't it? And it was lovely because I'd been doing the James Robertson was there on the same night. He was doing a sort of a stripped back version of the Pilgrimer performance that he'd done at Celtic Connection. So this was the kind of Scots reimagining of Hejira. Annie Grace and Rod Patterson were part of the big performance of that. And we did this kind of lower key one. I'm only saying we because I was lucky enough to get to chat to them about it. I wasn't, God forbid, singing. And we literally came out of that, and Ciarán Power and Donald Shaw had been part of it. We walked out of our venue and straight into your Spiegel tent, and you were just starting. And it was utterly magical,
It was a great show,
it was so lovely. And that was one of the...
And we got to do it in Oranmore as well, didn't we?
That's right.
At the end of Celtic Connections, that must have been the same year or the following year. That was a magic.
It was at the Tron. It was at the Tron.
Tron Theatre. I mean, I get mixed up between. Well, I don't get mixed up between them, but out of my mouth comes the wrong name. I mean, no, I can picture it being.
They're all legendary Glasgow
venues. I can picture it. No, I loved it.
It was great at the
to
Tron.
do that.
The one at the Tron was really
the Tron was great, and so was it. It was good in that tent. It's great when I love it whenever I get with a band because I'm terrified, but once you're on stage, you just get through it one way. There's some mistake happens, but as lovely Gordon McLean always says, Gogs just really, as he says, it's not whether you make a mistake, it's how you get out of it.
Exactly, and if you've got a band behind you, you can just sort of let them do something. You
get through it some way or
stop for a
another.
bit and start up again.
And nobody knows a thing. But so, I mean, I hope. I mean, there's some things I would like to do. I would like to do the Lost Poets again because we're all still here. That's Brian McCabe. And I'm talking about people that I was together with long before I knew you, probably before you were born, Steve. This was the 60s.
Yes, you have to be very
kidding.
young for that.
I'm kidding you.
I'm not that far behind you.
No, I know, but you are behind me. I mean, there's a big difference between 70 and 77.
Right, 71 now. couple of weeks ago.
There you go. Well, I know, but you're a half generation behind me. So whereas I'm the oldest of the Lost Poets, they're all about 75 or 76, But Brian McCabe, I first worked with him in 1972.
I used to know him.
Wow.
He was a schoolboy. I mean, his book he was a famous performance poet at that point, and his book was called Goodbye School Tie. He was just still at the uni.
Literally there.
So there's these people and these friendships. Sometimes you don't see each other for ages, but when you get back together, you start laughing, remembering the times you've had. Last month, Anne Lacey, who was Mary in Mary Queen of Scots, got her head chopped off. She and Jerry Mulgrew and I went out for our tea. We'd made a pact at Myra McFadden's funeral that we were going to have our tea together before Christmas, and we did. We had a mad night. We got all soaked, and Jerry, we planned to go to, Anne Lacey and I were going to go. Jerry is in a dance group now.
Oh.
He's in a dance group, yeah.
Right.
Not professional,
Not like Legs and Co. or Hot Gossip.
No, something at the
Patilla
Sits.
Girls.
Like his daughters have said to him, you're going to, so Anne Lacey and I were going to go to that, but it was the night of the big storm.
Oh,
just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I expect it's not been cancelled, but postponed.
Quite, and you have to.
If Anne Lacey and I can make it, we'll be there. Because everybody's life gets more not everybody's life gets more complicated as they get older. Some people's do and some people's don't. But the feelings that I have, it's lovely getting to do this thing because it's reminded me of what fun I've had in life.
Yeah.
And it's very like the story you were telling about Bill, because you don't realise at the time how you're going to look back on some of these things and go, my God, how lucky was I? Yeah. Like, here's the thing I got to do. And I was just remembering it last week when it was actually just before Christmas when I was depressed. I was trying to remember some things, and I was saying, when I was the makar, I got to, you're not asked for a lot, but I was asked to do a poem for Commonwealth Day. And I wrote one of the poems that I liked, afterwards, and it's a poem called Connecting Cultures. It's a poem I'm quite proud of. And I got to perform that in Westminster Abbey on Commonwealth Day, and my cue was I'd come in immediately after Rufus Wainwright had sung Hallelujah. And, so the camera was then swinging to me as well, because it was all going out live with James Naughty doing it, and the Queen was there and all that stuff. And I was thinking, I wasn't scared, because all I had to do was this poem and come in immediately afterwards. And I knew that sometimes I didn't particularly like the thing I managed to write for the opening of Parliament. Obviously, I loved performing Eddie Morgan's great poem at the actual opening, but my wee opening of a Parliament thing, it's been cut down. It was fine. It was quite short, which was good. But actually I knew this was a good poem that I was pleased with. And Rufus Wainwright was just adorable. He gave me a cuddle.
Oh,
and I just, we got on, we laughed and whatever. And we were both laughing about how we don't think that they'd really listen to how, Commonwealth Day, Rufus Canadian, of course, because, we don't think that they realise that Hallelujah is not necessarily a religious song. It's a bit more about S&M or something like that than it is whatever. Which suits Rufus. And it suits me in my raunchier moments, Nicola.
Well, quite, yes. And I'm sure it suits the dirty diva.
It's not really my kind of thing. No.
Never written a word of filth in your life.
No,
Don't open any book.
Never.
But it is that idea of interpretation as well. So you were touching on the Frank Zappa thing being more a tribute, if you like, Steve, or a bit closer to that, whereas your Captain Beefheart is very much interpretations. But also, even when you get involved with Liz and her poems, that's a different interpretation. You heard an intonation being different than the way Liz would perform it, on stage without perhaps that musicality.
Each other, obviously. But I'll repeat something I said when we were on Janice Forsyth's show once, actually. And Janice said, "How is it you start work? How do you work on a piece together?" And I said, "Well, Liz comes up with something. I sort of come up with some ideas, and we discuss it like adults as close as we can." to adults, and then we do what Liz says.
Well, it's sort of my show. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
I got a good laugh
in that particular kind of incarnation. It's very much you backing up words.
Yes.
Not necessarily my words. It's sometimes words that you've come up with.
Yeah.
You know, that I've put into my words later. But you know, it's a sort of it's a sort of review is the thing. It's review. REVUE,
yes.
which is a form that I've always loved. Even when I was a wee girl, I remember watching Beryl Reid doing Harold Pinter's sketches, and some of them were funny and some of them were, but it was wordy. And you can do things that are not necessarily funny, and things that are, you know, and putting together a show, and we do kind of come and go. I mean, there's a thing that we do with you and those damn pigs. Tell her about the pigs. Well, Tell her about the pigs.
I usually do a piece on my own as well if we're doing the longer show, and I did a piece using 2 rubber pig dog toys, and I do them in a lettered rhythm, so, and then I put that on a loop pedal and sort of build it up. And Liz named this piece "Male Saxophonist Pig." So,
I can't remember. Yeah. So I mean, it's great, and that used to, you know, start if we do the show of 2 halves version. That starts it off, and there's a lot of footing, and there's this pedal, you know, and a loop pedal, and then there's different instruments come in, and different. You layer it up because the last loop has got that bit, and then you descant with yourself and whatever, and it's just, you know. And I kind of stand looking furious.
Exactly. Because that dynamic, to have a foil like that. But it is also, we should say...
I treat him like his... What's it? Edna Everidge's Marge.
Thanks for that.
I knew I was reaching for the comparison, and there it is. It's also about the saxophone and the saxophonist, right? So when you've referenced my saxophonist, or my saxophonist is here or isn't, and you've got, of course, In Praise of Old Vinyl, which actually is the last poem in a HANDSEL, if my memory serves, and there's the line about inventing a lover on the saxophone. Right, you know, it's like
that only came into it. Used to say telephone. Used to say invent a lover on the telephone.
But it works so beautifully, and that's the way in which everything changes a little bit, right?
Can I just say we're not romantically involved?
But we love a saxophonist. I mean, inventing a lover on the banjo.
Heavens forfend, my God! Even the dirty diva would turn up her nose at you, Steve. She wants a younger man. Yeah, she wants, you know,
I'm younger.
But yeah, quite. What's it like for you, though? Obviously, you have that dynamic. But speaking about Steve and the Hazey Janes and bringing that album to life again on the episode of the podcast that we recorded with James Robertson and Andrew Wasylyk, and we were talking about the album in general, The Light Comes Back, but particularly something like, let's say, In the Midwinter. So a song that we kind of know, and I'm wondering from your perspective what it's like to hear that in this completely other incredible world.
I love that one. That's the one that I love. Find a copy of it to just put it on as a CD, but I like that one. I like it as a poem.
Yes,
it was written really on an actual midwinter day, and some of these things went in because I'd forgotten my words when we went up to multi-working it and had to find them. You know, so it was just like, sometimes there were some things that were shorter and then became song-like, but it was, you know, coming in on it, because first of all they're talking and they do things and they say, come in the third bar, Les, and I go, what do you mean the third bar? I don't know what a bar is.
It's a completely, even with me, it's a different thing for you, isn't it, to have to time something so that, no, can you come in after I play that bit, you know?
We begin to work it out, but you know, like the other day when I was doing, to my great surprise, doing Loose Ends again, which was great fun to get to do, because we were like round a table and really, I met some lovely people, gosh, including that lovely guy, Cognac whatever he's...
Oh, the Hebridean
the
Baker.
Hebridean Baker.
Oh,
Yeah, he's tasty. Yeah, the Dirty Diva approved of him. Anyway, it's just things like I'd offered them, I said, do something more romantic, And I might as well give you that because they didn't use this one.
Oh.
So this is short, and I think we've done this with them. I think I did this with, it's some old photographs.
Oh.
And it's just pictures. Mm-hmm. And all it came from, it wasn't written to become a song in any way. And these things, they're not songs, it's fine. They're just short pieces that become, I don't know, we want to do some more. Gordon and Andrew and I, once we get time, we'll go up to Gordon MacLean's brand new studio. B-flat Studios.
Oh. I haven't spoken to him for ages. Has he got a new studio?
Yes, he's putting it together. B-flat Studio there in Tobermory. And, I've definitely done this up in, I think it was when it was still Antober. When it was there. But anyway, here's some old photographs. Because I didn't get to do this the other day on the thingy-bob. But all that I did when I was writing this, it was when I was Glasgow's Poet Laureate. So it's a way back in the very early 2000s, and there was a lovely exhibition here in the Mitchell Library of old Times and Herald photographs, big black and white, amazing photographs. So just because I was not the makar at that point, but the Glasgow's Poet Laureate, here were some old photographs, and it was longer at first, and it came down to this wee song. Some old photographs. Weather evocative as scent. The romance of dark storm clouds and big skies over the low wide river, of long shadows and longer shafts of light, of smoke, fabulous film noir stills of Central Station, of freezing fog silvering the chilled, stilled parks of the glamorous past, where drops on a rainmate are sequins in the lamplight, in the black and white. Your young, still lovely mother laughs, the hem of her sundress whipped up by a wind on a beach before you were even born. All the dads in hats are making for Central at 5:05 in the snow, in the rain, in the sudden what a scorcher, in the smog, their belted dark overcoats, white spattered by the starlings swarming in that perfect and permanent cloud above what was never really this photograph, but always all the passing now and noise and stink and smoky breath of George Square. We boys, a duchess, bunting. There's a big launch in the Clyde, and that boat is yet to sail.
5:05 in the snow and the rain. Drops of rain, drops of rain. The noise and the stink and the smoke and the breath. Street like rain, in the street like rain.
I love that that's where we are, that you saw these photographs in this.
It's fun, isn't it?
It is absolutely wonderful,
I had
not
to
just
say it. I
city.
hadn't planned to.
Oh, and
I thought we'd
again,
done this, yeah.
it's that lovely in one of the poems that I associate with that time, it's that idea of nostalgia's everything it used to be, right? We can look back, it's absolutely fine, you can
It's just not to get stuck in it.
Yeah.
Alistair Gray used to, my dear, another great late friend. That's the worst thing about being old, is how many people you don't have physically around you anymore. Mm. But Alistair used to say he hated nostalgia because it bled life from you into the past. It doesn't have to do that. It can give you a new lease of life.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily, nostalgia's not necessarily a longing for the past and a resenting of the present. I mean, they're always asking, is your glass half full or half empty? Well, it's half empty because nobody's filling it up again. There's still half of it there. It's not in your glass, not in your life, but there's half of it there in your glass, still to enjoy in your glass of wine. But it is half empty. But, some of that rich vintage that's there can still feed your present, what you've got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. The old photographs, the old vinyl, and praise of that. But also to go back to your very publication, Memo for Spring. The interesting thing I'm thinking about that title there is the memo part almost suggesting something from the past, but obviously spring is always looking forward, right? And moving forward. So you've got, it can be both things. The glass can be half full and half empty. It can be a memo, a memoir, and it can be springing. We can have it all.
McCaig, like you see, I don't like the title really. I mean, it was all put together in about 6 weeks, you know, just through having opened for Norman McCaig at a thing called Poem 72.
Yeah.
You know, through having got, by chance, somebody been picked out of a hat to be somebody to go and doing 10 minutes before Norman. And it changed my life because everybody was there to hear Norman. And then the publisher said, you got enough for a wee book? And then he sort of, he phoned back and said, I didn't phone me back because I didn't have a telephone, must have been a letter, saying, I've got an Arts Council grant, so we could do this. And he said, no, you know, with the title, both times, he said, Memo for Spring, you know, from what, because it says the last poem in the collection or something, and he said, yeah. And I said, I'm not sure, but Norman McCaig likes it. So anyway, I remember we went round to Norman McCaig's, and Norman said, Memo, that makes it cheeky.
Oh.
It's not, you know, I mean, Norman McCaig was adorable. And I mean, he was so handsome. He was only about 60 at the time. Beautiful cheekbones and gorgeous. And he used to say to me things like, you were born in a laundrette. The trouble with you, Liz Lochhead, is you were born in a laundrette. This was referencing a poem I'd written about, you know. So, I mean, he was cheeky to me. And it felt really nice that he was encouraging.
Yeah.
I mean, they all were. Like, I was the only girl around, but they were lovely to me, all these old gents. You know, they were really gentlemen, and they were just lovely to me in every way and encouraging and giving me a chance and just being just totally encouraging and lovely.
And it was that platform as well. It was the fact that immediately the words were always off the page. There wasn't the distinction between is this being spoken word or is this being, it's one and the same.
I refuse to make that distinction.
Yeah. And you never did.
You do them differently. I never did. Well, why I started, I wanted to write things like the dirty, things that were silly like that. It totally comes from about 1967, the Sunday Times, which my mum and dad started to get, in the Colours supplement or whatever happened, there was an article about the Liverpool poets, Roger McGough, Adrian Henry, and Brian Patton. Yeah, the three of them. That was the first book I bought. It was 3 and 6. It was a Penguin, the Mersey Sound. And anyway, in the Sunday Times there was Roger's Let Me Die a Young Man's Death, not a cleaning in between the sheets, holy water death, to dum-de-dum. I've not learned it, but it's, you know, and I thought, I want to do that. And I remember I used to be writing wee poems, usually quite, nothing performable like that, nothing rhyming. I'd never, but you know, I'd be writing wee things down my sketchbook, and my pal Doreen used to say, stick in at this and we'll get to meet Roger McGough. Well, about a year and a half later, Doreen and me and Roger McGough went out for a curry after he was on at what was then called the Third Eye Centre.
Oh, again, a stone's throw from here.
Yeah, I've stone's throw beforehand.
Well, we're talking about those early days before we wind up, because we took you back to a point, but was the saxophone always your instrument? Was performance and collaboration always at the heart of, like, what you did?
Pretty much. I mean, I didn't actually take up any instrument really, but the saxophone until I was 17. So, and I'm self-taught. I've not been through, you know, all these. Yeah, I've never not been through all that sort of stuff. You know, going to the music college and all that sort of thing. So that sort of limited me in some ways, in that I'm not as good as a reader of music as I would be if I had. You know, I can, but I'm not a brilliant reader. But it's also sort of freed me up.
Embouchement. Yeah. Whatever you call it. What do you call it?
Embouchure.
Yeah,
I can do that. I can play all the. I can play all the notes.
Yeah.
I can play all the notes.
Not necessarily in the right order.
Well, that's what
the notes exist.
You've got to say that whenever you hear somebody say that.
But it's left me open to all sorts of other stuff as well, because you know, because I hadn't got that sort of what to me can be a limitation if you've been through all that sort of stuff. But you know,
the strictures.
It does work both ways, you know. But it's funny now, the bands that I've told you about, in that I've actually spent most of my career playing original music or the music of my colleagues, whereas now I'm in those two bands I mentioned, Zappa and Beefheart, and also I've just fairly recently got together a band to play the music of the sax player Pharoah Sanders, who played with John Coltrane.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I've done 3. For some reason, we only get a gig every November.
John Martin adored him.
Yeah, the last 3 Novembers, and Nicky
John
King
Martin.
was in. Nicky King one time in Edinburgh, and then her dad, Freddie King, a very old friend of mine, has done the other 2. Brilliant. So hopefully we'll do that again. But that's similarly, once again, somebody else's music, but in my.
But it's interpretations, and also I love the fact that you hear something different in your own words, Liz, once you've performed them with Steve. It's even changing the rhythm of them, the inflection of them. That's fascinating.
Because I'm determined. One that I've got to speak out against it. I hate the poetry voice. I absolutely hate that thing.
Tell us what you mean by that.
Well, I would maybe do a wee bit of something.
I have to say that I give Liz's poems a bit of class.
Yeah, you do. No, but I mean, I hate the poetry voice. Like, there's sometimes things that are written. I mean, some poems are, this isn't a poem, but they would turn the photograph and title on the cover of this book are the same ones from the cover of my first collection of poems. They sort of say this thing. It's a bit like a vicar's voice. I can't, I still hear it, and
it's like
young people do it still. And I don't think, I know my friend Ian McMillan also doesn't do the poetry voice and doesn't approve, but you hear people going, da-dum, da-dum, and it's actually, I try and get young people to say it as a sentence as well. Yes, it's not quite, there's got to be something raised above an ordinary sentence rhythm, but there's a way of saying, even a rhyming poem, keeping it as a sentence, don't go da-dum, stop at the end of the word.
Does it depend on the style? I mean, can
it
you do that with
depends
anything?
on not doing that stupid fucking voice. It just depends on you not doing the poetry voice. They just.
I know what you mean.
And the poems on the page are not like that.
No. And also, it's making me think of a lovely Jackie Kay quote that she said about you at some point, which is that you're someone of many guises and many voices, right?
Oh, that's
it's the
nice
very opposite of that to this one almost slightly cyclical. And the thing is, how are you going to get a saxophone in about that, right?
Well, exactly. Yeah,
it has to interchange. Anyway, we should probably, for this conversation, wind up so you can get to your gig, because you need to get your dinner first. So just to surmise, you are going to hopefully do more stuff together, because it would be wonderful. So. And having seen you in lots of incarnations, since something's old, something's new going forward, selfishly, I want that to happen as well.
Well, thank you.
Well, so it's got to happen, right?
Use your influence, Nicola. Do you have any?
No.
Why are we bothering speaking to this person that can do us no good whatsoever?
Anybody listening who wants a geriatric poems and saxophone duo, that's...
And a dirty diva, wherever she may be.
Will I come back to us? Once in a blue moon. Once in a blue moon to us, unbidden. Bless us. Bless us. The light comes back. The light comes back. The light comes back.
The divine Liz Lochhead there with saxophonist extraordinaire Steve Kettley. This track that you're hearing is taken from their gorgeous LP with the Hazey Janes, Light Comes Back. If you fancy hearing more from the Hazey Janes Andrew Wasylyk, you can listen back to the episode with him in cahoots with James Robertson. There's a lot of Michael Marra chat in there, it has to be said too. And there's another episode with the fab Dave Anderson where we also sing the praises of Michael. Liz also mentioned Alistair Gray there. You can listen back to our Grey Day special with Saoirse Dallas and Alan Bissett if you fancy. I'm hosting this year's Grey Day at Oranmore with Ashley Storey, Sarah Sheridan and more. That's on February the 25th. Thanks as ever for listening, and hopefully see you at a live Kick Up the Arts event in Aberdeen, Glasgow or Edinburgh soon. For now though, I'll leave the last word to Liz Lochhead. As well I might.